Hello everyone, this is Richard from MTG Goldfish, and welcome back to another edition of Budget Magic. Today I have a sweet mono black humans list for you guys. We're playing standard with this, and this deck comes in at under $40 in real life, or just under 20 tickets online. So the goal of this deck is to flood the board with cheap, aggressive black creatures, and then cast an Obelisk of Erd, which gives all your creatures +2/+2. And since we're playing black, we have a lot of black disruption cards, and we have removal to get creatures out of the way. So this is a pretty sweet deck. Let's take a deeper look at some of the cards. So the best card, or one of the best cards in the deck, is Bloodsoaked Champion. It's a Konzitar Kiora card. It's a 1-to-cast 2/1 black creature that can't block. And the important part is it has a raid ability, which is 1 black, and you can return it to the battlefield from your graveyard if you attacked with the creature this turn. So you can smash with this guy into your opponent's creatures. When he dies, when you attack again, you can bring him back from your graveyard. So this gives the deck a way to fight other creature decks, and also gives a way to fight through removal. Another aggressive 1-drop, we have Tormented Hero. It's a 1-to-cast 2/1. Enters the battlefield tapped. And it has a heroic ability for when you target Tormented Hero, each opponent loses 1 life. So we don't really have anything to trigger heroic. As a desperation move, we could target it with our own removal, but for the most part, it's just a 1-mana 2/1. And then rounding out our 1-drops, we have Ruthless Ripper and Mardu Shadowspear. So Mardu Shadowspear is a 1-to-cast 1/1. Whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. So it's effectively a 1-to-cast 2/1 if the opponent is not blocking. And it also has the dash mechanic, meaning if you suspect if the opponent's going to play some kind of board wipe or sorcery speed removal, you can just dash him for the 2 damage and return him to your hand back to safety. And the last card is Ruthless Ripper. So it's another 1-drop. It has Death Touch, so it can block. It can kill a Siege Rhino. And it has a morph ability, so you can use it as a 2/2 on turn 3 if you want, and when you turn it face up, opponent loses 2 life. So you can use that as a little bit of burn to kind of finish off your opponent. So moving on, we have kind of the top end of the curve. These are the last of the creatures. We have Mogis Marauder, Mardu Strike Leader, and Painseer. So Mogis Marauder is probably the best card in the deck. It's a finisher card, so once you swarm the board with creatures and your opponent has maybe Sylvan Caryatids or Corsair Crewfixes to block with, you cast Mogis' Marauder, give your entire team Intimidate, and then swing through for the victory. So Mogis Marauder is typically the best card in your deck. We also have Mardu Strike Leader, a 3-to-cast 3/2. And whenever it attacks, you get a 2/1 black warrior token. So it kind of keeps getting value by making more creatures. And it also has a dash. And finally, we have Painseer, a 2-to-cast 2/2. And whenever you untap it, you reveal the top card of your library. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost and put it in your hand. So this gives you more cards to draw and try to grind out your opponent. And it actually gets used. I was surprised at how often Inspired actually triggers. There are a lot of creatures for your opponent to remove, so they kind of run out of removal. So Painseer can actually get in there and draw some cards for you. So he's kind of the Dark Confidant of Standard, and so far I've been pretty impressed with him. And then rounding out the rest of our 60-card deck, we have Obelisk of Erd. So it's a 6-mana card, and it has Convoke. And when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. Creatures you control that type get +2/+2. So all of the creatures in the deck are humans. Sometimes you'll name Warrior because Mardu Strike Leader creates Warrior tokens and they're not humans. But for the most part, they'll be humans. And this card is very important to play around Drown in Sorrow. So Drown in Sorrow gives all your creatures -2/-2. And all of our creatures have 2 toughness or less, meaning they'll all die. So Obelisk of Erd lets you get out of that range. And there's also a cool combo with Painseer. You can convoke Painseer, tap it to cast Obelisk of Erd, and when it untaps, you get to draw a card. And the last 2 cards in our deck are Murderous Cut and Bile Blight. So these are just removal spells. that are cheap that we can use to kind of clear the path to our opponent. And lastly, we have 22 swamps. We don't need to run too many lands since we have mostly 1-drops, but we do need to make it to 3 mana, so that's why we run 22 swamps. Moving to the sideboard, we have more removal. We have Ulcerate. It's a very cheap 1-mana spell that gives a creature -3/-3, but the downside is you lose 3 life. So this is kind of a suicide black deck. You're basically going to pay life with Ulcerate, with Pain Seer, and try to kill your opponent first. We have an extra Murderous Cut in case we need it, and we have 3 Despises in case your opponent is playing a Planeswalker heavy deck and you need to get rid of them, or they're playing kind of big scary creatures, maybe Pelucranos or Siege Rhinos, and you want to deal with them efficiently. We also run Herald of Torment. It's a 3-mana 3/3 flyer. At the beginning of your upkeep, lose 1 life, and you can also bestow it for 5. So this usually comes in against control decks. You want to basically bestow it onto something, and if your opponent removes it, you get a 3/3 flyer after. It's also good against mid-range decks. You can bestow a creature and kind of fly over any big threats on the board. And finally, we have Brain Maggot. So this is our budget substitution for Thoughtseize. It's a 1/1, and when it enters the battlefield, you can remove a non-land permanent, or sorry, a non-land card from your opponent's hand, as long as Brain Maggot stays in play. So maybe you want to remove a Drown in Sorrow or an End Hostilities or something and buy yourself more time. So we've made some budget substitutions to keep the deck cheap, but if you have any of these cards floating around, you may add them in. So you can remove 8 swamps and add in Bloodstained Mire and Polluted Delta. And the reason you want to do this, even though you don't run any red or blue cards, is so that you get an extra card in your graveyard to cast Murderous Cut. Murderous Cut becomes a great removal spell if your graveyard is just full of mana, or sorry, full of cards, and Murderous Cut will only cost you 1 black mana. Hero's Downfall is another great removal card. If you have Hero's Downfall, you can put them in the main deck instead of Bile Blights and move Bile Blights out to the sideboard. And finally, we have the All-Star Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize just removes the best card from your opponent's hand for only 2 life. If you have these, you can replace the Despises in your sideboard with Thoughtseizes. So once again, here's the deck. It's budget mono black humans, under $40 in real life and under 18 tickets online. It's based off a great list made by the great Japanese player Tomoharu Saito. If you want to purchase it, there'll be links below, and you can use the links on the side here. I'll have both the budget version, which you're going to see me play right now, and also the non-budget version with all of the Heroes Downfalls, Thoughtseizes, and Fetch lands put in. And if you want to watch the matches, there'll be annotations on the side if you click on them, and also I'll link them below. And that's it, so we can hop into games. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified whenever new videos come up.